And hundreds of people that I knew and met knew my father, and none of them ever said he was anything less than a great man. And one night I was doing a presentation in the town that we just went through. And there was a finalist presentation, and the board of education is there. And the board chairman, I'm saying my father was a superintendent 20 miles away, and he stops me. And he says, "Is your dad Warren Alexander?" And I couldn't wait to say, "Yes, he is now." Because I knew the gift I was about to get. And he looked at everybody and he goes, "I know the boy's daddy. He's a great man. He must be a great man too." I couldn't wait for the gift of saying, "Yes, that's my father."
Most of us are living on 105 to 110% of our income. It's just how most of America lives. And you know the stress it causes. Like, you totally understand, as Dale's talking about this, the stress you feel or have felt. And so I encourage you, go order 2 of these books, one for you and one for your kid. Read it with them and then start to make the changes. And I do like your approach, Dale. Instead of like, well, sell all your stuff and buckle down and get a smaller house, it's like, let's do a little bit longer game. Any new dollar that comes in, still keep 50 of it for yourself, but then start to pay off the debt, start to save, start to do what you could have started doing at 70, and then let your kids be a part of it. I actually, just to run this by you, so we have a family meeting once a month, and I felt as though I wasn't a good saver. And so I let my kids know, Dad and Mom were working on saving. So every month I'd let them know, this is how much we saved this month. And then anything that they were willing to save from their jobs, I matched them dollar for dollar.
Come on.
So it got a little out of control though, because like my kids had some babysitting jobs and clean our Airbnb and stuff. So they were actually putting up some good dollars. Like I was having to match, $750 or something a month, which was great. But that savings, they could only use it for 3 things: college, a car, or a business they want to start.
Nice.
So anyways,
brilliant.
Try to lean into those things.
Brilliant.
Any additional thoughts on the book and on what parents could do with and for their kids to help them set future success? And then I want to dig into another topic with you.
So when Mike, as an example, one of our sons started mowing the grass at 9.
Nice.
And so he became crazy about how well he did it. And because I was paying a lawn service, I don't know, $40 a week or something back then. And I go, I'd rather pay my son and teach him a lesson. I'd rather pay him that. And I remember one of my friends going, well, I can't do that because I don't want my grass to look bad. And it reminds me of something a famous football player said when his children were tearing up the yard, playing football in their yard. And his wife said, tell them to stop tearing up playing in the yard. They're tearing up our grass. And he said, we're raising kids, not grass. And so I remember my friends saying, I want my yard to look great. And I just remember thinking, I'd rather teach my kid a lesson than have a great yard. But it turned into be great. And I said, Grant, I was going to pay you $25, but I'm going to pay you $40 because of your attitude. Because the world rewards people for attitude. The world rewards people that want to do great work. And I showed him that's just how the world works. When you do more than you're asked to do, you're going to get paid for more for what you do. And then what he made, I would match it. Whatever he saved, I would match it. And we would write down a little 401k, and we would write down, and we taught him things like that in his notebook. So keep doing things like that. Go through this book. It's 87 pages. Go through this with your kids. There's something in it for everybody.
Beautiful. So Dale, one of the questions that I ask my guests are about their dads. And typically what I ask is, what's something that your dad did that you appreciate? And then what's something that your dad did that you wish he would do differently? And the reason why I ask it is because even at 60 years old, you have an opinion of your father. And I think it's really important for us dads to know that now, because our children will have an opinion of the way we showed up. Now, before we even hit record, you held up your phone and you showed me this list of items. Talk to me about that, and talk to me about your father.
I'll go ahead and say I'm going to get emotional doing this. And we're riding from Atlanta through Georgia into South Georgia right now, going to Jacksonville, Florida. And so we're in the area where I grew up in South Georgia. And
Hey, Dale, let me pause you for 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, Dale.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second. It cut out quite a bit. Let me just see if our connection lines up again, just to make a note.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Okay. I can hear you good again. So, all right. So lean into, all right. So tell me about your dad.
So I'm going to get emotional doing this. And we're riding through from Atlanta through Georgia. We're in the south part of Georgia right now, headed down into Florida to go to Jacksonville. So I'm in the area where I grew up and my dad was from. So I'm going to get emotional talking about this. Let me just say this. I had incredible parents. I had incredible parents. They're both gone. And my father was a great man. If I could be 1/10 of what my father was, I would have lived an incredible life. So let me give you an example of my dad. My dad was a school superintendent in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And he was a superintendent for many years. And the first job that my dad was a principal, and his longtime mentor, boss, superintendent, suddenly dies. And as a 34-year-old, my dad gets thrust into this leadership role as the superintendent in South Georgia school system. It was the first year of integration in South Georgia schools. And the first day as a 34-year-old, my dad walks to his high school, and there's state patrolmen lining the top steps of your high school for racial unrest. And my dad handled that day, and that year and the next 21 years as a leader with amazing grace and character. And here's how I can prove that. I came behind my dad working in schools for insurance. And for 20 some odd years, I walked behind the wake of my father's character. And hundreds of people that I knew and met knew my father, and none of them ever said he was anything less than a great man. And one night, I was doing a presentation in the town that we just went through. And there was a finalist presentation, and the Board of Education is there. And the board chairman, I'm saying my father was a superintendent 20 miles away, and he stops me. And he says, "Is your dad Warren Alexander?" And I couldn't wait to say, "Yes, he is now." Because I knew the gift I was about to get. And he looked at everybody and he goes, "I know the boy's daddy. He's a great man. He must be a great man too." I couldn't wait for the gift of saying, "Yes, that's my father." Because I knew what I was about to receive. And the shoulders that the character that my dad carried 20 years before me led me through a career, or it could have shut my career down. And I never had to worry about that. But I wrote this letter that I just showed you, what my dad taught me. And there's about 70 things on here of lessons my dad taught me. He was a great man.